She's a
because
compulsive liar, Your Honor.
I wasn't sure.
Liar.
No.
That conversation never happened.
Yes, it.
Mr. Bell had never doubted he was your father, and you were shocked when he recently began denying paternity. So, Mr. Bell, you say you're sorry this hurts Ms. Others, but you may not be her father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Plaintiff's mother fraudulently claimed you fathered another one of her children.
Yes, Your Honor.
And now you believe she's lying again.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I really don't know why he's denying me now after 18 years, but it really truly hurts a lot because all I known him as my father growing up.
In her 18 years, have I ever denied her? Not once.
But you're denying her today. You're
I've
saying that you may not be her father.
When my daughter was about 2 years old, she and I became intimate again, and she wound up pregnant. When the baby is finally born, my sister and I go by to see my daughter and the new baby. There's a doorbell, and somebody's at the doorbell. And I'm like, are you going to answer the door? And she was like, well, you know, no, I'm not going to answer it. Long story short, this other gentleman comes in and saying, where's my baby? So we did get a DNA test for that baby, and it turned out he was not mine.
All right.
You know, Your Honor, there's been, years have gone by, of course. Why didn't I do it sooner? The cost. It's too much. $300, $400, I couldn't afford that.
Your Honor, I was at McDonald's and he met me up at McDonald's. That's when he said he wants a paternity test. And I agreed to it.
What did you think?
I was hurt. I was really hurt. But at the end of the day, still, he hasn't been there for me.
I've been there for her.
You admit this McDonald's day happened?
Probably.
Probably.
Can't recall that. I don't recall that.
Mr. Bell, if you forget a fact like that, your credibility is shot.
When we did talk about it, it was not at McDonald's. We all decided that it was going to happen.
So that didn't happen that way.
No.
Please, I'd like to hear from Stan, ma'am. State your name for the court.
Mary Others.
However, he contends that there was another young child born during your relationship when you were with him that you told him.
My son, yes, but he also knew that there was a possibility that there was another man.
It was no big thing to you because you had already told both of them.
I told both of them that there's a possibility it could be Kevin and a possibility it could be the other dudes.
She's a
because
compulsive liar, Your Honor.
I wasn't sure.
Liar.
No.
That conversation never happened.
Yes, it.
Whether or not the same thing may have happened with your daughter.
Yes, but after 18 years, Your Honor.
Were you intimate with anyone else during the time your daughter was conceived?
No, Your Honor.
Did you attend doctor's appointments? Were you at the hospital when Tyanna was born?
I was there when she was born. Yes, I was.
Did you sign the birth certificate?
Yes, I did.
This case unfolds inside a courtroom where an 18-year-old girl arrives carrying a lifetime of confusion, hurt, and unanswered questions about who she is and where she comes from. She walks in believing that the man sitting across from her has always been her father, the only identity she has ever known. For her, this is not just about biology. It is about belonging, about understanding why the person she called Dad for her entire childhood is now questioning her existence in his life. She explains that growing up, she was told this man was her father. She believed it without doubt. As a child, she looked to him as the figure who was supposed to protect her, guide her, and stand beside her. But as the years passed, his presence faded. He was not consistently there. Phone calls were missed. Visits were rare. She felt like she had to chase a relationship that should have come naturally. Still, she held on to the belief that he was her father because that belief gave her some sense of identity. Now suddenly, after 18 years, he is denying paternity. He says he is not rejecting her emotionally, but he claims there is doubt in his mind. This doubt, according to him, did not come from nowhere. It was planted years ago because of something that happened during his relationship with her mother. He tells the court that when the girl was very young, he had reunited with her mother briefly, and during that time, she became pregnant again. He believed that child was his as well, until another man showed up claiming to be the father. A DNA test later confirmed that the child was not his. That moment shattered his trust and planted a seed of suspicion that never fully went away. He says that experience made him question everything. If he was lied to once, he began to wonder if he could have been lied to before. But despite those doubts, he admits that he signed the birth certificate when this girl was born. He was present at the hospital. He accepted her publicly as his child. He did not question it openly at the time. Years went by without a test, not because he didn't think about it, but because he says he could not afford one. He claims that money was always tight and the cost of testing felt out of reach. For the young woman, hearing this explanation does not ease the pain. To her, the timing is cruel. She asks why, if he had doubts, he waited until she was grown to speak up. Why did he allow her to believe he was her father for 18 years only to pull the ground out from under her now? She describes how hurt she felt when he first brought up the idea of a paternity test casually, meeting her in a public place and telling her he wanted proof. She says that moment changed everything. It made her feel unwanted, questioned, and disposable. The judge listens carefully and points out the emotional weight of this situation. This is not just a dispute between adults. This is about a young woman whose entire sense of self is tied to the answer they are about to receive. The judge asks her directly what she wants. She says she wants the truth. She says that no matter what the result is, she needs to know. At the same time, she admits that even if he is proven to be her father, the damage from his absence and doubt may already be too deep to repair. Her mother is called to speak. She stands firmly and says that this man is her daughter's father. She insists that during the time her daughter was conceived, she was only involved with him. She denies lying and says that questioning paternity after 18 years is unfair and cruel. She argues that if there were doubts, they should have been addressed when her daughter was a baby, not when she is already an adult with a child of her own. But as the testimony continues, cracks begin to show. The mother admits that during another pregnancy, there was uncertainty about who the father was. She says she told both men involved at the time that there was a possibility either could be the father. This directly contradicts what the alleged father remembers. He says that conversation never happened and that he was blindsided. This contradiction becomes central to the case. The courtroom fills with tension as accusations of lying are exchanged openly. The alleged father's mother also takes the stand. She speaks with strong emotion and clear distrust toward the girl's mother. She describes the devastation she felt when she learned that the other child was not her grandson. That moment, she says, broke her trust completely. From her perspective, the situation with this young woman is clouded by that past deception. She admits that she believes there is a possibility the girl could be her granddaughter, but she also believes the mother is capable of lying again. The young woman listens as the adults argue over events that happened before she could even understand what was going on. She explains how growing up without a stable father figure affected her. She talks about how hard it was to navigate life without someone consistently showing her right from wrong. She says she felt the absence deeply and that it shaped who she became. She felt judged and criticized instead of supported, especially by the man who was supposed to be her father and his family. The alleged father pushes back, saying he was around when he could be and that he accepted her as his daughter for many years. He says he gave her money when she needed help and tried to be present in his own way. But the judge questions this, asking why someone would continue to support a child if they truly believed she might not be theirs. His answer reveals the conflict inside him. He says he always accepted her emotionally, even while doubt lingered in the back of his mind. As emotions rise, respect breaks down. Harsh words are exchanged. Accusations fly between the young woman, her mother, the alleged father, and his mother. The judge steps in, reminding everyone that this behavior is damaging, especially to the young woman who is already carrying so much pain. The judge points out that many of these adult conflicts should never have been placed on the shoulders of a child. The bitterness, mistrust, and arguments have all spilled over onto her, shaping how she sees herself and the people around her. The judge explains that doubt is understandable when trust has been broken in the past, but silence and avoidance have consequences. Allowing a child to grow up believing something that may not be true without ever seeking clarity can cause deep emotional harm. At the same time, the judge makes it clear that none of this is the young woman's fault. She did not create this situation. She is simply living with the consequences of choices made by others. Finally, the moment arrives that everyone has been waiting for. The DNA results are ready. The courtroom becomes quiet. The judge opens the envelope and reads the findings aloud. The result is definitive. The man who believed himself to be her father for 18 years is not biologically related to her. The reaction is immediate and overwhelming. The man feels vindicated and says this confirms what he suspected. His mother expresses anger toward the girl's mother, believing this proves she was lied to all along. But the judge does not allow the moment to become one of celebration or blame. Instead, she turns her attention to the young woman. The judge speaks to her gently, telling her to lift her head. She makes it clear that this outcome does not define her worth. She tells her that the truth, while painful, is necessary for healing. The judge emphasizes that this was not her mistake. It was the result of grown adults failing to handle the truth responsibly. She assures her that now that the truth is known, there is an opportunity to move forward, to find her real father, and to build her life on honesty rather than confusion. The court is adjourned with that message. The young woman leaves with pain, but also with clarity for the first time in her life. Her identity is no longer built on uncertainty. The truth, though heartbreaking, opens the door to understanding who she really is and where she truly belongs. After the results are revealed, the emotional weight in the courtroom does not disappear. Instead, it settles heavily on the young woman, pressing into everything she thought she knew about herself. For 18 years, she carried a name, a story, and an identity that now feels suddenly unstable. The man she believed was her father has been proven not to be, and yet the emotional bond, the memories, and the pain tied to his absence do not vanish with a single sentence read from an envelope. The judge focuses on her, deliberately shifting the attention away from arguments and accusations. She tells her that this moment is not a reflection of her value. She explains that children often become the silent victims of adult mistakes, forced to live inside choices they never made. The judge wants her to understand that her confusion, anger, and heartbreak are natural responses to a truth that should have been handled differently from the beginning. The young woman listens quietly, her posture closed, her emotions barely contained. She is not crying loudly, but her face shows exhaustion. This is not just shock. It is the release of years of questioning why she was not enough for someone to stay, why she always felt like she had to chase love instead of receiving it freely. Now she understands that the distance, the hesitation, and the inconsistency may not have been about her behavior at all, but about doubt that was never resolved. Still, understanding does not erase hurt. She remembers birthdays where he did not show up, moments where she needed advice and had no one to call, times she felt judged instead of guided. Knowing he was not biologically her father does not make those moments disappear. If anything, it complicates them. She wonders whether his absence was inevitable or whether things could have been different if the truth had been known earlier. The man who was accused of being her father stands on the other side of the courtroom, feeling a mixture of relief and guilt. He feels validated because his doubts were confirmed. He feels anger toward her mother for allowing this confusion to continue for so long. But beneath that, there is also the reality that he participated in this story. He signed the birth certificate. He accepted the role, even if inconsistently. He allowed a child to call him father while never fully committing to that responsibility. He says that despite the results, he never hated her. He insists that his distance was influenced by doubt, confusion, and the advice of others, especially his own mother. He believes that if the truth had been clear earlier, different decisions could have been made. But the judge makes it clear that intentions do not undo impact. A child does not feel intentions. A child feels presence or absence, care or neglect. The mother of the young woman stands exposed in a different way now. The certainty she expressed throughout the hearing collapses under the weight of the DNA results. She is forced to confront the reality that she knew more than she admitted. The judge addresses her directly, explaining how damaging it is when a parent presents uncertainty as absolute truth. Her daughter trusted her completely. That trust shaped how she viewed everyone else in the room, especially those who questioned paternity. The judge explains that when a parent speaks with certainty, a child builds their entire emotional understanding around that certainty. When it turns out to be false, the damage is not limited to disappointment. It creates confusion, resentment, and mistrust that can last for years. The judge emphasizes that this young woman defended her mother fiercely because she believed her mother was telling the truth. That belief influenced how she treated others, including the man who doubted paternity and his family. The courtroom becomes quiet as the weight of responsibility settles. The judge does not shout. She does not insult. Her disappointment is calm and firm. She explains that adults must protect children from adult chaos, not pull them into it. By allowing bitterness, suspicion, and unresolved conflict to shape this child's upbringing, everyone involved failed her in some way. The judge then returns to the young woman, reminding her again that she is not broken. She is not less valuable because of this result. She explains that biology is only one part of identity. Character, strength, and resilience are built through experience, not DNA. The judge tells her that the truth, painful as it is, gives her something she did not have before, a chance to move forward without lies. She tells her that her real father is known, that there is clarity now, and that this clarity can become a foundation for healing. She encourages her to seek counseling, to lean on people who support her, and to separate her own worth from the mistakes of others. She reminds her that becoming a parent herself gives her an opportunity to break cycles, to raise her child in honesty and stability. As the hearing concludes, emotions remain unresolved. There is no neat ending, no reconciliation that magically repairs years of damage. The man who is not her father does not suddenly step into a new role, nor does he completely disappear from her emotional history. The mother does not instantly regain trust. The grandmother does not soften her anger. What remains is truth, raw and uncomfortable. The young woman leaves the courtroom carrying grief, but also carrying knowledge. She now knows that the emptiness she felt was not because she was unlovable or unworthy. It was the result of uncertainty, avoidance, and fear that belonged to the adults around her. Knowing this does not erase the pain, but it shifts the blame away from her heart. This case becomes less about who her father is and more about how deeply unresolved truth can affect a child's life. It shows how silence, half-truths, and delayed honesty can cause wounds that last far beyond childhood. It also shows that, while truth can hurt, it is the only thing that allows healing to begin. As the doors close behind her, the young woman steps into a future that is no longer built on assumption. She may feel lost for a while, questioning who she is without the identity she carried for so long. But she also has the chance to rebuild that identity on reality, instead of doubt. The truth has finally been spoken, and although it arrived late, it gives her the possibility of peace she never had before. In the days that follow the courtroom hearing, the weight of what happened does not fade for the young woman. The truth keeps replaying in her mind, not as a single moment, but as a series of memories now rewritten by what she knows. Every time she remembers calling him her father, every time she waited for him to show up, every time she felt rejected, the meaning shifts. The pain is still there, but now it has a different shape. It is no longer mixed with self-blame. It is mixed with understanding. She begins to realize that her childhood confusion was never because she did something wrong. She did not fail to earn love. She was placed inside uncertainty before she ever had a voice. Adults made choices, avoided hard conversations, and allowed doubt to live quietly in the background. She simply grew up inside that silence. The man who was proven not to be her father also carries his own aftermath. Away from the courtroom, the relief he felt begins to tangle with regret. He knows the test confirmed his doubts, but it also forces him to confront the fact that he allowed a young girl to grow up half-claimed, half-questioned. He tells himself he did what he could, that money was tight, that trust was broken long ago. But none of those explanations erase the image of her standing in court, asking only for truth. He realizes that doubt does not excuse distance. Even if biology was uncertain, the emotional responsibility existed the moment he signed that birth certificate and allowed himself to be called Dad. He understands, perhaps too late, that children do not separate love into technical categories. They only feel presence or absence, and his absence left a mark. Her mother, too, is left with consequences that do not disappear when the court adjourns. For years, she stood firmly behind a version of the truth that gave her daughter certainty, even if that certainty was fragile. She convinced herself that protecting her child meant presenting one clear story. But now, she sees that protection built on denial can collapse painfully. Watching her daughter absorb the results forces her to face the cost of her silence. She knows now that honesty, even when uncomfortable, could have spared her daughter years of confusion and conflict. She sees how her certainty shaped her daughter's behavior, how it fueled defensiveness, anger, and mistrust toward anyone who questioned that story. The realization sits heavily with her. Love alone was not enough. Responsibility mattered too. The grandmother remains angry, feeling justified by the DNA results. She believes her instincts were right all along, that her distrust was warranted. But beneath her anger is also loss. She spent years keeping emotional distance from a young woman who might have been her granddaughter. Even if biology proves she was right, the hostility hardened relationships that could have been gentler. Being right does not bring peace. It only confirms division. For the young woman, becoming a mother herself adds another layer to her emotions. Holding her own child, she thinks about what stability means. She thinks about what it would feel like to grow up not knowing where you belong. She promises herself that her child will never have to ask the question she asked in court. She wants her child to grow up knowing the truth, even if the truth is complicated. She begins to understand that identity is not erased by one DNA result. She is still the same person who survived childhood confusion, emotional distance, and constant questioning. Her strength was built long before the courtroom doors opened. The test did not take that away from her. If anything, it explains it. The judge's words echo in her mind. This was not her fault. She repeats that sentence silently when doubt creeps in. She reminds herself that the anger she feels does not make her ungrateful or disrespectful. It makes her human. Healing will take time, and forgiveness may not come easily, but clarity is the first step. She also understands that knowing who her biological father is does not instantly create a relationship. That door may open slowly or it may remain closed. But at least now, any choice she makes will be based on truth, not assumption. That knowledge gives her a sense of control she never had before. This case leaves everyone changed, not because of the DNA result alone, but because of what it exposed. It reveals how deeply adult decisions can shape a child's emotional world. It shows how unresolved doubt can quietly influence years of behavior, distance, and resentment. It shows how children often carry the emotional burden of mistakes they did not make. In the end, there is no celebration, no clear winner. The truth arrives without comfort, but it also arrives with the possibility of honesty going forward. The young woman walks away knowing that her life will not be defined by a lie any longer. She carries pain, but she also carries clarity. And clarity, even when painful, gives her the chance to build something stronger than what she lost. Her story becomes a reminder that truth delayed can wound deeply, but truth revealed still has the power to heal. It may not fix the past, but it can protect the future. And for her, that is where hope finally begins.